So what's the difference between the highly successful people and the ones that almost get there? You know, Art Williams said many, many times, what's the difference between the $50,000 earner and the $500,000 earner? They do everything the $50,000 earner does and a little bit more. They work hard and a little bit more. They're more committed, just a little bit more. And what I learned over a period of time was that if you want to win, and you're sitting in these meetings, and we go to these great, incredible meetings, you sit there and you take notes. And when you're taking notes, one of the notes that I always would take when I was losing, which said, get committed, and I would write down, go to work. Get committed, go to work. And then what happened one day, I got committed, and I went to work. And when I did, my business took off. And I saw my income go from $80,000 in a year to over $900,000 in a year in a 4-year period. I was just doubling and stuff like that. And people would ask me, and they say, how hard did you work? And I said, well, I outworked all 100,000 people in Primerica. And they said, no, how hard did you work? I said, no, I outworked everybody in the entire company. So if you want to win, the first thing you got to do is you got to work hard. Art used to say the 50-40-10 rule is you beat 50% of anybody you compete in anything you do just by a willingness to outwork them. So you beat 50% just by being a hard worker. You beat another 40% by being a good person, the kind of person that people can trust, because you can't ever build a business if people don't trust you and they don't believe in you. And then you're in the top 10%. And once you get in the top 10%, you're competing with people that are hard workers, that are good people. But no matter where you're at, if you're in the top 10%, you're probably doing pretty good regardless of what industry you're in, especially in Primerica you are. And so what's the difference in that winning attitude and that mindset? Well, first off, we make a decision to do and know. And what that means is that we work hard, and then we work on learning how to control ourselves. You know, it's interesting to try to get to control. I see people trying to control other people when it's almost impossible to control yourself. And so what you have to do is work on becoming more controlling of yourself, having more discipline. So I'm going to give you like a couple of thoughts that helped me along the way. The first thing I came to the conclusion is that I had not proven that I was so smart and so brilliant when I was broke that I could even trust me. So what I had to do was I had to change my mindset, and I said to myself, now if Art Williams were put in this position right now, what would Art do? And I could always give you the answer what Art would do. He would go talk to some more people, or he'd recruit two people, or he would go out and work harder, you know, that kind of thing. I always knew that, but if I started thinking about myself, I'd make excuses. And so one of the things I did is I started working on my goals, and I put my goals on paper. And I did like they said in Think and Grow Rich, and I just read those goals every morning. And every time I got negative, I'd read those goals again and read those goals again until eventually what happened is I was getting drug around by my goals. In other words, it was no longer me in charge. It was my goals in charge, and they drugged me where I needed to go, where I could win. And I started doing some things that allowed me to change the way I thought. One of the things that I've always recommended people do is they listen to Tom Hopkins. Tom's one of the greatest sales trainers that's ever been. But one of the things that Tom did that I thought was great was he talked about what happens to people when they get in their danger zone. See, everybody wants to be in their comfort zone. And what happens is the comfort zone, you're good. But when you get put in the danger zone, meaning somebody does something to you, or maybe a customer cancels, or a new recruit says something to you bad, whatever it may be, or you get turned down and you're on a bad roll there, you go into your danger zone. And your danger zone is one of two things. You become hostile. In other words, you get angry and you're hostile and that kind of thing. Or the other is you withdraw and you go sit in the corner and you just sulk. And both cases, neither one of them works. And so what Tom used to say, he said, when you feel yourself getting in the danger zone, soak it in. Soak it in. Say, you know, I'm getting put in the danger zone right now. Now, I could do what? I could just get hostile, or I could withdraw, or what I can do right now is soak it in and then be creative and come up with a way to get back on track. And so one of the things that Art used to say, he said, never get too high, never get too low. The sun's going to come up in the morning, it's going to go down tomorrow night. Things are never as good or as bad as they seem at the moment. So never get too high, never get too low. In other words, when things are going good, never get too high. When things are going bad, they're not nearly that bad. And what you want to do is you just want to cruise and not allow negative people or financial problems or any of those kind of things that normally knock people out to affect you. One more thing that I learned was about building a case about pain and pleasure. I got this from Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins had a book called Unlimited Power, his very first book, and I read that book, and you can take that whole book and you can narrow it down into just one little thing, and here's what it is. People will do anything they can to either gain pleasure or avoid pain, but the primary motivator is to avoid pain. And so what you have to do is realize that people, when they try to change, most of the time they worry about the change and they think of it as painful. So what I had to do was I had to change my association. So I'm going to give you an example. In our business, the most important thing that you can do is to prospect. In other words, go talk to people that you don't know, contact people, put yourself in a position where they can say, no, 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 I'm not interested, I'm not interested, I'm not interested. And so people fear rejection. They don't like rejection. So when they get rejected, they don't feel good about it. And what do? They avoid it. They avoid rejection. They avoid that pain. And so what I had to do was I had to change what I viewed as painful. And what I came up with was a case for contacting people. Because, see, I knew that if I didn't contact people, and if I didn't put myself in a position to get those no's, then everything that I wanted, I was going to lose. I wasn't going to have any money. I was not going to, if I didn't have any money, I wasn't going to have a car, I wasn't going to have a house, I wasn't going to be able to take care of my family, I wasn't going to be able to do anything because of the fact that I wasn't prospecting. So when I started thinking about not prospecting, I started thinking about all the pain that was going into not picking the phone up. So therefore, I just picked the phone up out of fear. I had to call some more and talk to some more people. And so when you're out there every day in the grind, you got to have the mindset that's going to help you win. And you got to eliminate all of the things that cause you to lose, like fear and worry and stuff like that, and turn it into own. In other words, when you get a no, just turn it around backwards and get own with it and continue to do more. So the mindset is about winning is something that you just got to be a little bit tougher. You got to find ways to motivate yourself, keep your goals in front of you, and you'll start seeing it come together. I hope this helped.